Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to Saturday's edition of the DCEU Daily with the iconic Zack Snyder maybe teasing Final Crisis. I think we should find out what Final Crisis is all about, because I know you lot said, oh yes, I know all about Final Crisis. I'm a big comic book fan. I'm a big comic book fan. I've never read it. I don't know anything about it. I know Zack literally was adapting this for his kind of 5-movie arc, but I don't really understand the elements of the comic. So what we're going to do, I found an old article from CBR.com to find out what Final Crisis is all about. Final Crisis, a complete guide to DC's most complex event. More than just a reality-shaking crossover event, Final Crisis was a meta-textual commentary on the nature of comic book storytelling. Here's how. By Sam Stone of CBR.com. The DC universe is rocked by reality-shaking crises on a semi-regular basis, but the most complex, densely esoteric of them all is 2008 Final Crisis, written by Grant Morrison. The crossover event had the villainous Darkseid reborn on Earth and triumph over the heroes by unleashing the devastating anti-life equation on the DCEU superhero community, with the event heralded as the Day Evil One. More than just another cataclysmic event, however, Final Crisis was Morrison's metatextual meditation on the nature of superheroes and comic book storytelling overall. Here is the complete overview to the most complicated crisis of them all, including DC's divergent lead-up plans to the event, the multiverse-spanning scope, and the fallout from Final Crisis in the DCEU. So we didn't get anything multiversal in this, really, from what I saw in Zack Snyders' Justice League, but we don't know what Justice League 2 and Justice League 3 were actually going to do. Will we ever find that out? I hope so. If we keep on fighting and hashtag restore the Snyderverse on social media, like we did with Release the Snyder Cut, we will win. In the year leading up to Final Crisis launch, DC Comics published a weekly series countdown to Final Crisis, as several heroes found themselves exploring the reborn DC multiverse as the new gods were systematically wiped out. A development expanded on in the miniseries Death of the New Gods by Jim Starlin, while promoted as tie-ins to Final Crisis. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Because in Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut, we see basically the Justice League together kill, maybe even murder, Steppenwolf. I like that bit when Wonder Woman chops off his head. She doesn't actually have to do that, but he's been pissing her off for the whole movie, saying that pretty much he wiped her entire race out. So that's a bit of revenge at the end of the movie, and I like that. Morrison himself would distance himself from the titles as related to his story due to the glaring discrepancies, including how Final Crisis depicted the deaths of the new gods themselves. Instead, the most relevant lead-up titles to Final Crisis were penned by Morrison himself, most notably a series of interconnected miniseries that introduced the post-Crisis 7 Soldiers of Victory. Across these miniseries, Mr. Miracle and Darkseid are both revealed to have been reborn on Earth in new host bodies. In one-shot special issue, DC Universe Zero, the old Justice League villain Libra, resurfaces to form a new society of supervillains and murders Martian Manhunter to send a message to the superhero community while secretly working for Darkseid. Interesting, because there's a rumour in Justice League 2, and I don't know who told me this or where I got this from, and comment down below and smash a like on the video if you've heard this rumour as well, that in Justice League 2 or maybe 3, Martian Manhunter does get killed. Interesting. The first 6 issues of Final Crisis were drawn by J.G. Jones and coloured by Alex Sinclair, with Marco Rudy providing additional art in issues 5 and 6. Carlo Paccio provided pencils for issues 4-6, with inks by Jesus Marino. Oh, I say Jesus, but it's Jesus, I think. while Doug Mahnke penciling issue 6 and 7. The final issue was inked by Mahnke, Tom Nguyen, Drew Gerasi, Norm Rapmund and Rodney Ramos, and Warden Wong. The final 2 issues were coloured by Peter Panatsis, with additional colours in the 7th issue provided by Tony Avenia. The first 2 issues were lettered by Rob Lee, and the penultimate issue lettered by Rob Clark, and the 5th and 7th issues were lettered by Travis Lanham. What happened in Final Crisis? The main series opened with Darkseid and Orion killed in an unseen war between New Genesis and Apocalypse, with Darkseid reborn in the body of Metropolis police detective Dan Turpin. Darkseid's death had caused a ripple effects to reality itself, with Earth serving as the focal point for a singularity that determined the fate of the entire DC multiverse. As the bullet that killed Darkseid travelled through time, the Silver Age Flash Barry Allen was resurrected, while the reborn Darkseid converted many of the DCEU's heroes into his mindless subjects through the anti-life equation. As with the lead-up tie-ins, many of the concurrent tie-ins to Final Crisis had little bearing on the main story. Instead of following separate characters using the unfolding crisis as a tangential backdrop, these included Jeff Johns and Scott Kolin's Rogue's Revenge, following the Flash Rogues Johns and George Perez's Legion of Free Worlds, as Superman helped the Legion of Superheroes in the 31st century, and Greg Rucka and Philip Tan's Revelations, which followed Crispus Allen as the Spectre. The most important tie-in was Morrison and Mahnke's miniseries Superman Beyond, with the Man of Steel joining a team of alternate versions of himself from across the multiverse to battle Mandrak. Actually, that's a great premise to bring in all our live-action Supermen thus far, after J.J. Abrams' Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Superman movie, and obviously the Val Zod limited series on HBO Max. This idea would be great to have Brandon Routh, Tyler Hoechlin, Henry Cavill all together on screen, including the 2 new Supermen of colour, coming soon as well. I'd love that. A vampiric monitor, while discovering he was part of a comic book. After completing his mission, Superman returned to the DCU to discover Darkseid had conquered Earth and apparently killed Batman. After the Dark Knight shot him with the magic bullet after defeating Darkseid and the resurgent Mandrak, Superman used the Legion's miracle machine to wish for a happy ending, effectively restoring reality. Bit too easy though for a movie, I think. While the DCU, I keep on saying EU, had been largely restored, subsequent miniseries would explore the immediate fallout from Final Crisis. In a line of miniseries dubbed Final Crisis Aftermath would follow characters informed directly by Crisis Johns and Ethan Van Sciver's The Flash Rebirth had Barry acclimate to his new lease on life as he faced a familiar foe. The Crisis was revealed to have temporarily merged the Red Circle Comics and Milestone Media superheroes into the DCU before Flashpoint. Most notably, the loss of Batman was explored in Morrison's subsequent titles that had Dick Grayson become the interim Dark Knight before Bruce Wayne eventually returned after being projected into the past by Darkseid's Omega Beams. Well, Zack wouldn't be using Dick Grayson, or could he? I don't know, because he killed him off, didn't he? The Joker killed Dick off, so that wouldn't happen unless in some kind of multiversal way it could happen. The after effects of Final Crisis to be felt throughout the DCU today, with the crossover event Dark Knight's Death Metal having Superman venture to a planet in the dark multiverse directly inspired by the earlier story. In this world, the Man of Steel finds a version where Darkseid had truly triumphed over the heroes, and this is important. Let's go back to this. Superman ventured to a planet in the dark multiverse directly inspired by the earlier story in this world. The Man of Tomorrow finds a version where Darkseid had truly triumphed over the heroes. This is Zack Snyders' Nightmare Future. He's adapted this for his Nightmare Future. Very smart, Zack, very. Solidifying his role as Superman, confronting him for the Crisis energy needed to restore the DCU once more. So this is interesting, isn't it? So Zack's clearly looked at this very deeply, and instead of adapting it, you know, faithfully, he's taking elements out of it. So in the comics, Superman finds this other Earth where Darkseid wins and has taken over. This is Zack's nightmare future, by the way. He's taken this and made it his nightmare future. Instead of Superman discovering this apocalyptic future, is actually what he does is they get Barry Allen, the Flash, to find a way to go back to the past and warn Batman. A very, very smart thing of Zack to do. So what do you think? Is Zack Snyder going to do this? Is he hinting about the restoration of the Snyderverse, or is it a man just doing a very artistic close-up on a turkey? Very, very interesting, because all of a sudden we've had 3 or 4 teases in the space of a week or two. And as I said yesterday, Zack's been very, very quiet recently. Now, the complication, as we say many times, is Rebel Moon. Zack hasn't got the time to do this, even if they tapped him to do this. I don't know. I don't know why he's throwing these hints out there. Are they hints? Or are we looking too deeply into it? But, well, fuck it. Let's look too deeply into it. Let's have a little hope. I mean, Zack could have just been doing a close-up at a turkey, but Zack doesn't do that. And now one journalist said he's trolling his fans. Zack Snyder does not troll his fans. He trolls other people who don't like him. Basically, that's what his films are as well, basically. You know, he's attempting to trigger the idiots as well. So I believe something is brewing here. Something is happening. And now I know a lot more about Final Crisis. I can see where Zack was going with his 5-movie arc. He's looked at this and he's taken Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut, Justice League 2 and Justice League 3. It would have been incredible. And we deserve to see this, don't we? Doesn't the world deserve to see this? Zack Snyder's vision was taken away from him because he was different. He wasn't being different for different sake. He makes movies, he makes high concept movies. His storytelling is very high concept. Now, maybe Army of the Dead isn't as high concept, but that's because Zack Snyder's just basically pulled out this franchise for Netflix and put his name on it to bring eyes on Netflix. That's all really the Army of the Dead franchise is. But if you look at his other projects, 300, high concept, Watchmen, certainly high concept, Man of Steel, BVS, his Justice League movie, all high concept. Rebel Moon will be high concept. So we need this to be done. And Zack seems to be hinting something. Now, the other day we were talking about, is it Clay Staub throwing some hints? He's now said that he was just posting something randomly. Of course, he would say that. And we discussed this the other day. Could Clay Staub, would it be okay with you lot? It's okay with me, but my fellow dceu Snyderverse fans, would it be okay with you if Clay Staub was, you know, Zack Snyder's proxy with restoring the Snyderverse and him directing what Zack Snyder's already plotted? You know, Clay could direct Justice League 2 and 3 and use what Zack's already plotted out for these couple of movies. Yes, it would be a shame Zack can't direct it, but ultimately this guy's worked very closely with Zack. He could use Zack's style. It's not perfect, but I think it could work. And of course it would be faithful because Zack's work, he would be literally adapting Zack's work. Not even adapting, taking it and putting it in front of the camera. So I think Clay Staub is a really good writer-director, and I think he could do a great job with Justice League 2 and 3, and I think this is maybe something that is happening. Because these people had a great opportunity to restore the Snyderverse. I believe AT&T wanted to restore the Snyderverse, and it went a bit wrong, which is a shame. But we spoke about this yesterday as well, didn't we? You know, they've made so much money on the Snyder Cut. It's unbelievable the money they've made via HBO Max and hard copy and digital copies. I think we've all bought the digital copy and we've bought the hard copy as well out of support for Zack. But it's great to have, I mean, People use the word masterpiece, you know, very off the cuff. But Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut is certainly a masterpiece. Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice is a masterpiece. And Man of Steel is a beautifully shot masterpiece by Zack Snyder. So we have 3 films. There's 2 films to go. And this is why we're hashtagging Restore the Snyderverse. It's very, very important we keep on doing that. But you know what? I don't think we're doing enough. I think we need to up our game. Because we are heading to a very fortunate, opportunist situation. David Zaslav and Discovery are coming some point in 2022. WB Pictures are going to be under a lot of pressure with 6 movies, not including the Super Pets movie, by the way, that it may seem like a pointless little movie that, you know, but they want it to make money because this is their idea. This is their idea. They're trying to create mainstream family superhero, you know, fare, if you want, in the movies. I think some of the movies will still be dark, and obviously away from the DCEU we're getting Joker, which is probably the kind of thing, or the thing I'm kind of mostly looking forward to. So they've got big projects next year. Really, you could call this DC Rebirth next year. This is where they kind of try and move on from Zack. But how much are they actually moving on from Zack? I would dare to say that since Aquaman, you know, since the Justice League Calamity, they've made their efforts not to move too far away from Snyder. Look at it. Aquaman, it's got beautiful visuals. It's a great story. It's Zack's casting. It's a great movie. Shazam does everything in its power to reference multiple Man of Steel, and mainly BVS, the most controversial movie within the franchise, in that movie. Shazam references, you know, the Snyderverse. It's not ashamed. It's saying we're proud to say. Now think about this. This is a director making a movie for Warner Brothers Pictures who is supposed to hate Zack, but he was allowed to throw in all these Easter eggs in. I mean, they had to green light it. They had to okay what he was doing. Was it their idea? His idea? We'll never know. So they really haven't moved too far away. And then you look at what we got after Shazam. We've got, is it Birds of Prey? Birds of Prey references the other Suicide Squad movie. I have issues with Birds of Prey, but it does reference the Suicide Squad movie. It tries to get away from it a little bit, but it finds itself back in the reins because they're using what Harley's already been through to reference this movie. So again, not moving too far away. Wonder Woman 84 uses the beautiful line music at the end. I mean, again, not the biggest fan of Wonder Woman 84, but that beautiful scene when Wonder Woman gives her iconic speech and you get, you know, Hans Zimmer's A Beautiful Lie. So there's connections. They really haven't moved too far away. And James Gunn's A Suicide Squad, again, I mean, even references Star Labs in the film, which is first referenced, I think, in Zack Snyder's Justice League. So even though James was doing his own movie, there's references to the past. Superman is mentioned. So how far have we actually gone away from Zack Snyder's universe? And how far, and this is a good question for you all, and for myself, by the way, but mostly for you lot, so comment down below. How far will they move away from Zack's universe? Isn't it interesting? Excuse me. But isn't it interesting? Pre the Snyder Cut, Zack was telling us that Justice League was canon. Since the Snyder Cut and the studio have seen how much money they've made out of the Snyder Cut, we have heard rumours, not just rumours, but facts. They're using Zack's effects team for the Flashpoint movie. They're using elements that Zack's already used. You know, Wonder Woman 3, it is looking like it's using elements of his arc from Justice League 3. So they're not really moving away from Zack that much. Don't forget, Wonder Woman 3 comes after Flashpoint, well after Flashpoint. We're talking about probably a 2023, 2024 release. Probably a 2023. So, and then you've got the Batgirl movie that's using his casting in J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Jim Gordon. And maybe even his Batman, Ben Affleck. We hope. Let's see what happens there. Ben Affleck is returning to the Flash movie. I don't think he's doing a great deal in that movie. You'll see him a little bit, but I don't think he's front and centre in that movie. His relationship with Barry is, so you'll see him there maybe 10, 20 minutes at most, I would think. But that's still awesome, isn't it? So, the Snyderverse is bleeding through still to the other DC Extended Universe movies. This is very interesting because everyone keeps on telling me, and you guys, that we're trying to move away from the Snyderverse. Now, they were trying to do that, but even pre the Snyder Cut, they allowed David F. Sandberg to have all those BVS and MOS and Snyderverse Easter eggs. It's a bit curious, isn't it? They're not moving away. And if you think about the movies that are coming, they're not moving away from what he set up. So the interesting thing is, how dramatic is this Flashpoint DC Extended Universe reboot and relaunch? Is it a total, wipe away of what Snyder was doing, or is it just cleaning up house? It's interesting. Why even do Flashpoint? Well, one of the reasons to do Flashpoint is to free themselves from certain situations. But mainly, the reason they're doing Flashpoint is to integrate the multiverse, other iterations, live-action iterations of DC, so they can make them canon. Mainly, this is what they're doing. It isn't really to delete what Zack has done. So we're going to find out what this movie Flash does to the DC Extended Universe. It's so interesting, isn't it? It really is. But from what I can see, they're not deleting the Snyderverse, because I suppose the problem that they have in the Flashpoint movie, you would need Cavill at the beginning of the Flash movie. You would need Ben Affleck at the beginning, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. It's a shame we can't get Ray Fisher's Cyborg, but you can't have everything you want in life. But they would have to be there anyway. What happens afterwards is very interesting. So I'm not saying beyond a shadow of a reason of a doubt that they're not going to delete what Snyder's set up. But I think, at the very least, they have seen how good the Snyder Cut is. They've seen the money and the attention it's brought in. So I don't think they're going to get in there with a hoover or a broom or a vacuum and suck everything that Snyder brought in there away. They're not stupid enough to wave away money. Or so I hope they're not. So it's a fascinating situation because the road ahead isn't very clear. This is the most fascinating movie franchise of all time, as far as I'm concerned. It started off so, divisive. Divisive outside of the films, because the films themselves, the 3 films that Snyder made, from my point of view, and not everyone's point of view, they're great movies. They're brilliant movies. Now, maybe, definitely not the mainstream audience's cup of tea. Why do they care about the mainstream? Money. That's how you make money. They're a business. They want to make money. But there should be a situation now where you can shuffle Snyder's verse off on some kind of Elseworld so you can still deal with it. How do you do that? Is that what they're going to do? I don't know. I don't know how dramatic this reboot of the DCEU is going to be. And they've been talking reboots ever since Justice League, because Justice League was supposed to be an easy way of rebranding the franchise, and it didn't work. Let me draw you a picture. Kevin Sugihara, who was the president of Warner Brothers at the time, literally went to Zack Snyder. Is that a cup of tea you're drinking? That cup of tea looks and tastes shit. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put a bottle of fucking vinegar instead of hot water in your tea. That's more like it. He took Zack's work. He took many elements out of it and got Joss Whedon to colour it up and make it good and make it family friendly. It wasn't family friendly. It wasn't. I mean, families went there and watched it and kind of went, well, that's okay. But let's make no mistake, they didn't get the feel-good feeling they did out of Joss Whedon's written and directed Avengers Assemble movie. Because they took somebody else's work. It's like taking Denis Villeneuve's Dune and getting someone else, let's say James Gunn, to rewrite it and redirect it using elements of what Denis has used. It'll be despicable, wouldn't it? Everyone in the film industry would be disgusted. Interestingly, these same people weren't disgusted, and the people, the directors, the creatives in the industry never fought for Zack because they didn't want to lose their positions. Where would Zack Snyder now be without Netflix and streaming? Nowhere, because they pushed him out of the theatrical system. They pushed him out of the mainstream industry. If there was no Netflix or streaming, Zack would be nowhere right now. But Zack was saved by streaming and Netflix, and now he's working on Rebel Moon, a rejected pitch for a darker R-rated Star Wars television series. The only reason George rejected it was because it was too dark for what he wanted for Star Wars, and that's fair enough. He is going to expose Disney's Star Wars with Rebel Moon. He's going to expose Warner Brothers for throwing him and his DCEU Snyderverse to the curb. Unless they make a decision now, unless they've already made a decision, which seems so unlikely with what Ann Sarnoff said in that Variety hit piece in March. So who knows? How can you talk about the multiverse being so connected when you've got the Snyderverse and you don't want to use it? So we're going to use everything but the Snyderverse. Doesn't make sense. So in the final 4 minutes of this video, let's round it up to a good 30 minutes. Let's talk about why Warner Brothers may have changed their mind. Spondulix, money everyone, popularity. They saw. Let's talk about the reactions to Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. The reactions were positive. The reactions that said to you, this is better than Justice League, you can take as nothing. Because as I said many times before, even I could make a film better than fucking Justice League. Jesus Christ. I hate my throat in the morning, I apologise. So that's reason one. There was some very, very positive, constructive reviews. I read one that was simply sensational. The other one was from Darkseid's creator and the New Gods creator, Jack Kirby's grandson, or whoever it was. I have never seen this guy give such a flattering review for someone using one of his father's characters, right? So that's interesting, because we've seen Eternals, which is also from Jack Kirby's workings. I don't remember the grandson coming out giving such great praise, because probably he didn't think it was very good. I think Eternals is okay, but what it says, when you get someone like Jack Kirby's family member, grandson, or whoever it is, saying such flattering things about Zack Snyder, one thing's for sure, you don't bin him to the curb like they've done. But now, in the cold light of day, they've seen the numbers. They have seen the positive reviews, and they know that Zack Snyder, put in the right place in the DC Extended Universe, can make them money. So what do you do with a problem like Zack Snyder? Zack Snyder isn't a problem to me or most of you, but he is to them. They know now they have to have him somewhere. But where? I would say they wouldn't want him in the Central Universe. They don't want him running the Central Universe. But you can give him something. You can give him something to create, to continue his vision. It's the multiverse. You could even say after Flashpoint, elements of what he did moved over. You could actually say, oh, this is another clever way of doing it. The Snyderverse now is now an alternate take on the DCEU Earth 1. It's on another world, right? Just think about this, because they're using Gal and Jason and probably still using Henry and the others that Zack cast, right? You can't take those actors away and say, right, there's Zack's now. It's too complicated, but what you can say is, if you say this is just an Elseworld, this is an alternate reality of this Earth. So you still use the same actors for what Zack wants to do, right? And let's assume Clay Stalby's going to direct it, using Zack's work and Zack's, vision for what he wanted to do with Justice League 2 and 3. It's just an alternate version, right? And for you who don't know what alternate means, and I'm sure you do, parallel. It's a parallel universe where everything's the same, but a little different. That's what they could do with Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 and 3. It doesn't interfere with anything. They could actually say, all this time, since Man of Steel, we've been watching an alternate take of Earth 1, the DCEU Earth 1. Comment down below. Smash a like on the like button if you think that's a really good idea. I think this is what they could be doing, what they maybe will be doing, and what they're discussing right now. Zack Snyder is hinting. We're back to the good old days. Henry Cavill is talking Superman. We're back to the glory days. We can restore the Snyderverse if we're as committed as we were when we wanted to release the Snyder Cut. But we don't have to, and I certainly don't want to, destroy what they're trying to do with the Central Universe right now. All they have to do is commission it to be an alternate, a parallel universe, and create a little twist saying this was always a parallel version of Earth 1. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, comment, share, please subscribe, and please hit the notification bell at the very top or down there or wherever it is so you never miss this perfection. I'll see you again tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily and restore the Snyderverse.